So today we will focus on customer mirror, and like in last two sessions we had understood how customer behaves as your very strong mirror, and at the same time it behaves like a very important signal to you. So before we start signaling to the customer, it is easy to see whether our actions are right or not by looking at the face of the customer. So let's take some examples here. Suppose you want to check whether my execution capability is good or not. You just have to visit customers and understand if they're if they're what their conversations are. And it's an art. It's an art to figure out and discover what the conversations are. It's not about asking a few questions. It is about indulging with them in the conversation. And then when you indulge in the conversation, many of the things come out as exactly the way you are by exactly the way they are behaving. So the behavior is confident, that shows your value. If their behavior is fearful, that shows your another form of value. If their behavior is calmness, that shows your new form of value. So whatever is happening at the customer side, at his own heart, spirit and mind, you will be able to see how you are behaving internally and how you are behaving externally, to see heart, spirit and mind. It is it is said that it is said that a large amount of a large amount of a very large amount of experience is built in the hearts of customers and not in the world outside. So therefore, whatever you are doing, that action will result in something, and then result is going to give birth to a seed inside the heart of the customer. So today we had understood, we'll do a little recap of whatever we did in last two sessions, but then we'll move on to how to sustain that conversation. So if you remember, last um, last session we had spoken about how to build the drivers of what is the framework of customer mirror and what are the drivers of it. So for example, the conversation that we had was that the engine of building the customer framework is sustaining on the philosophy, and philosophy without architecture is just a sentiment. So how does an organization actually keep its customer signal healthy when you are transforming, when you are going through a change, when you are not in a state like he is used to seeing you? So there is a four-part driver mechanism that we have to build to be able to make the customer experience active, managed with capability during the change, and not just a passive outcome hoped for after the transformation has happened. So what are the four drivers of engine? If you remember, the first driver was presence. Customers need to know that someone still owns their relationship, and he needs to know it explicitly and visibly. Now, that is the first important driver, the presence. So, presence actually actively closes the gap. Gap of what? Gap between what he thinks he wants to achieve versus who is actually doing it. So presence, and it's need to be named. It has to be reachable. It has to be human. It cannot be a AI. It cannot be an algorithm. It cannot be a message. It cannot be an email. It cannot be a newsletter. If the presence is actually a presence, a human presence. So that is the first thing. The right time to establish presence is immediately before the announcement, not after. And absolutely not after the restructuring stabilizes. Customers who wonder whether anyone will still own their relationship tend to start answering the questions themselves, and that is very dangerous. So, that was the framework of presence. The second P is the promise. Customers need to know what is true, especially when the truth is inconvenient. So, promise is the discipline of proactive, honest communication. And it is not aspirational. It is not a CEO's letter. It is not a founder's email. It is not a customer letter. It is a operational kind of promise. That means keeping customers informed about specific things that are changing in their specific experience before they discover those changes themselves. That is the driver number two, which is the promise. Now, the driver number three is the pipeline. Customers need to see the company's future. In the company's future, they have an important part, or customers need to see that company's future is one that they really want to be part of. That is driver number three. Driver number four is the proof, because presence, promise, and the pipeline will not hold you for long. You will have to really see the proof. That means at least show the proof. Customers need to see the proof. Customers need to see and feel the transformation. And what transformation? They need to feel the transformation is creating value for them and is not just creating value for the company. So, proof is the signal engine that connects to the transformation's underlying strategic objective or rationale. Every transformation in theory designed to create something better, better capabilities, better service, better economics, and proof is the discipline of surfacing those promises that value in the customer's experience. So, these were the four drivers. And I ended last time's conversation by saying that promise earns the trust. Sorry, presence earns the trust. Promise builds the capability, credibility, and pipeline maintains belief, and proof creates advocacy. I'll repeat again. Presence earns trust. Promise builds credibility. So I'm present, I trust you. I promise, I build credibility. Pipeline maintains belief, because whatever things are coming in pipeline for the customer, I feel okay, yeah, good things are going to come, good things are going to happen. And proof, even a small, creates advocacy. That whatever they say, they do. So, presence, promise, pipeline, proof. This P, four P's are an important part of the framework of you being able to drive the right customer behavior during your transformation journey. Okay. Now, how do I sustain the whole thing? Designing the engine is a straightforward part. Sustaining it across the full arc of transformation which may run 12 to 24 months, sometimes 36 months, is where the program quietly starts collapsing. So whenever the transformation activity is happening inside, it is obvious that anybody in the value chain of the transformation will see an impact. And impact is not straight for good, it falls and goes to good always. And therefore, you will have to keep everybody as a stakeholder, important stakeholder in the loop. So designing the engine with the four drivers is still a straightforward part if you can actually do it well. So if you have to just build the presence, you have to just build the promise, pipeline, and approve communication through human interventions, customers are happy. But sustaining it across the full arc of transformation, oh, that needs sustenance, that needs perseverance, that needs clarity. And this transformation is not 24 days work, it is 24 months work, and maybe sometimes 36 months work. Now, this is where the program quietly starts collapsing. And what are the why do they collapse? Is because suddenly internal priorities come into play, customers kept the back burner. So, therefore, four maintenance practices prevent that collapse. The first, cross functional customer ownership. So, when you have a cross functional customer ownership during the transformation, customer experience remains at the highest order. Now, it's an important point to understand. Customer success is not only customer success officer's job, it's not only customer delight's job. Proactive communication by the cross functional leaders with the customer actually helps in the whole problem solution approach. So, at the executive level, customer experience metrics need to sit in the same room where transformation decisions are made, not reviewed afterwards, but consulted during, is the most important part in the whole transformation journey. So, let me put these things in the form of a framework for you very simply. So, let me share the screen. All right, so now I have my toolbar here. Let me first, for your benefit, put the drivers. So first driver, repeat after me, is presence. And as I said, it has to be human. It cannot be machine. The second driver is promise. Third driver is pipeline. And the fourth driver is proof. Now, this is an important part of the whole journey. This actually results in this needs to be maintained by maintenance is a bigger task than creation. So first part of maintenance is cross functional ownership with intensity and very big sanskar of hope. What is most important over here is that whenever you are doing this activity of transformation, whenever you are in the presence of your new way of working, the people who are in the cross-functional teams have different sanskars. For example, person in the design or person in the execution, for example, so design this thing, has a sanskar of being perfectionist. Person in the legal or always in the stage of questioning has the sanskar of protection. They always feel the other person is wrong. Execution wants everything perfect. Sales or business development has the sanskar of growth. So when they're in the growth sanskar, their sanskar is trying to maintain balance. So when you're trying to maintain balance, that means you're trying to being good. Rather than saying balance, they're trying to be good. They don't confront. So when they're in non-confrontation stage, they want everything to remain in gray. It is extremely difficult for organization to succeed because in the gray zone you tend to lie. So what happens when you're interacting with customer and you're the first part of connection for the customer, that is sales, automatically you say certain things which customer now really don't want to hear. They want to hear what is really going on because he's feeling something wrong. So therefore, salespeople are worst in interacting with customer during this time because they will portray a picture which may not be true. Because that's their sanskar, that's how they are used to doing it. So therefore, cross-functional ownership of the customer is important so that he gets the right picture. But picture being as much right as possible cannot be grim because it is not. However, a person with a sanskar of seeing something wrong always will tend to portray a wrong picture, even if it is not, because that's how he sees it. So, therefore, a committee, a very important committee, which is cross functional, need to be formed, which can portray the right thing, present the right picture, it is coherent across all conversations, and is also not grim because that's why you are not doing the transformation. You're doing transformation for something good. And in the interim between the operation, if you start seeing things, a person with negative eye will always say, "Kyare, to khun phaila hua hai." The body is open, something is going to go wrong, everything is falling apart. That is how his sanskar will be. But falling apart during the transformation is a expectation, and when things are falling apart there's a natural reaction from the customer, natural. And that's why the person who's to be conversing cannot be a person who can lose the cool very fast. So therefore be careful in creating that committee which owns the customer in a cross functional way. Transformation is not a science only. Transformation is about four important layers. It is about first layer of how you can manage the emotions, how sometimes you can be a balancer, how you can see things clearly and communicate things clearly, how immediate reactions are not taken to heart, how immediate superficial reactions are not seen as big blunders. So therefore, this anyway customer is seeing. Now, as a company, your job is to maintain the scenario in the head of the customer that okay, we delayed the parcel. Okay, a document was not supposed to be done. Okay, I understand that there was a query and we did not respond on time. Okay, my RM was not available. But see, there's a whole company out there who is actually for you. We will stand by you. I'm always a call away. You have a problem? There are 10 people whom you can call to. One, two, three, four. And ideally, the first person should be able to answer. Second should not be even out. So when the customer sees that there is a battalion of people in the organization representing different functions, who are supporting me, his experience, his patience goes multifold. So at the executive level, customer experience metrics need to sit in the same rooms where the transformation decisions are made. Because if you review them afterwards and not during, executives are not able to communicate the right thing to the customer. So when a decision to, for example, freeze product investment is made, हम ये भी product में investment नहीं करेंगे. The question is that you have to answer, okay, this decision is made. Now the question that needs to be answered is, what will this signal to the customer? And who is going to communicate it? The person who is going to be doing it needs to be in the room when you took this decision of transformation. So cross-functional ownership means that sales, product, operations, communications, legal sometimes, even the design sometimes, execution sometimes have to be in the room. And one representative in from all these teams who sees things positively, who are able to manage and imagine things positively, are the one who need to be named as signal engine. And customers impact is, and this customer impact which you will create through signals, proactive compassionate signals, is what will create a sustenance to the driver of four levers, four drivers of that engine to keep continuing well. So in a way, what have you done? By creating a committee, you have given the ownership of presence to somebody. No, I know already that I'm implementing SAP, and when I'm implementing SAP, things will go south during the implementation. Now that does not mean the company is falling apart, which is how it looks like during the transformation. It is obvious when you are doing any kind of a change, customer is not able to see things well. It is obvious. And and now let me come to the other side. Despite you even making this committee, despite you being proactive, despite, still, once in a month, once in 2 months, you will get a call. And usually customer knows whom to call, who can create disruption. Because there is a person in every organization, or there is a team in every organization who has a protection sanskar. So when you have protection sanskar, that team gets hit. And then because of their power, sometimes they are able to move things too much and shakes it up. So while the shake is happening, there needs to be a balancer who can come into play and balance the whole thing. So therefore, this committee has to be very beautifully designed, even though, so that's what I'm saying. You have built the engine well, you have built the drivers well, you have built the cross-functional committee well. Despite that, there will be those exigencies, those accidents will happen, but those need to be put a break to immediately through a proactive action, post, or you can say reactive proactive action. Now reaction happened, so now become proactive in doing things and correcting the process rather than correcting the symptom at that moment. So that is the first important sustenance activity that you will do. That is cross-functional ownership. The second, anti-fatigue cadence. What does that mean? Customer engagement fatigue is real. Ask me, it is not easy. I do it every single day. Keeping all your 200 customers happy every single day is not an easy job, especially during the transformation activity when you know things are going to fall apart somewhere. So, one, assume the business that you are in, what are its design hazards, because that's a design hazard. It's almost like when you're an army things will not be good on the front is a design of that profession. If you're a doctor, things can go south in the operation room is the design of the profession. Similarly, one, you should be clear about the design. Now, when the transformation is happening with that design, you will have to decide the intensity of communication with the customer. And when that intensity is whatever that level is, it's usually higher than what you're used to. If it is higher than what you're used to, the chances of you breaking are higher because you will get burnt out after a few hours of those interactions or days of interaction. You were used to handling that customer's pain or customer's problems for a particular period in a month. Then you had to have a that break to give you calmness, restore your energy, and come back. Now, if that used to happen in a month, during transformation, it'll happen in 10 days. Now, you can't go on vacation every 10 days. Therefore, you need to build an anti-fatigue cadence. So let me put it up for you. Build an anti-fatigue cadence. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that customer engagement fatigue, which is real, not just for customers, it is for customers also, but it's also for internal teams who's managing it. So, transformation communication program that starts with a weekly updated and detailed engagement tends to thin out. So, therefore, what is the answer to this problem? The answer is structured, sustainable cadence established while you're designing the presence and promise. What does structured mean? What will be communicated? Who will communicate it? At what interval he will communicate? And through what channel he'll communicate? So, what have you done? When you structured it, even if you're tired, it will fall into place through somebody. So, for a particular job, you need to have a resource pool. What is a resource pool? Resource pool is a pool in which there are various resource units who can do the same job interchangeably. So, for example, you know that if I have to do this communication in my organization, I have four people who have the similar traits, similar communication style, clarity of thought process, understanding of the transformation. So, out of these four, any one can be part of this cadence, but cadence has to be structured. So, and as structured as possible, both for the customer and for the internal team. Now, customer experience will remain at the highest level if the clarity of communication is clear. And you have to be very clear that there is a distinction between a routine cadence, the drumbeat that maintains the presence, and event driven communication, the specific disclosure of material changes that is happening during the transformation. So, for example, if you're changing a software, you know the invoice will not come in the format the way it used to come, or the frequency of invoice will be different, or there are chances that the invoice comes to you even after internal checks is wrong. So you know there is an event that you're going to get launched now internally, and you press a button, and customer gets involved in that process now. That time, these are event driven cadences. apart from regular drum beats that you do to maintain your presence in the organization, the customer's organization. So, a sustainable low frequency cadence maintained consistently is worth more than high frequency program that collapses at month 4 or month 2, for example. Okay, so I would define two cadences here. Let me share my screen again. So when you say cadences, one is a regular drum beat. What is the meaning of a regular drum beat? It is basically a presence expressing the second one is what we call as event based cadence. That means you should be aware anything that may involve customer in your transforming process whenever inform proactively compassionate. So that is the anti-fatigue cadence. So if you build that, you are able to do things well on the ground. Okay. So that is the second part. The third sustainability driver is embedded accountability. What does that mean? Now, customer experience during transformation needs an owner, not a committee. So, in the anti-fatigue cadence or in the first part of cross-functional ownership, I spoke about committees. Now, when you say about customer experience during transformation, he needs a owner, not a committee. It is not a shared responsibility across functions. They're just your team members who will help you. But it is a named individual with authority to raise customer signal into transformation decision making and accountability for the outcome. And in many small organizations, that individual is the founder. You cannot have anybody else. So therefore, customer experience during transformation needs a owner. And if you are not able to put a owner's name to it and not a role, not a role, not a designation, it has to be an owner. It can be an existing customer success team member whom you think has the complete clarity. Anyway, he knows the customers. Instead of saying a team member, customer delight or customer experience leader. And in the company that I'm dealing with currently, there is no such person. So it's usually the founder. But he needs to get an explicit mandate now that you have to be a part of every communication to the customer. You have to be part of every experience of the customer. You should know when those events are going to happen, where customer is becoming part of our process, and there are chances that he's not ready. There are chances that he is going to feel the pain. How do you ensure that pain is inevitable and you make the suffering a choice for him by taking the pain maximum to yourself, by informing him on time, by keeping him ready before time? So those things are owner's responsibility and not the committee's responsibility. So what matters is that someone specifically is responsible for customer mirror. and that their signal can affect transformation decisions, not merely be reported after the event has happened. So, therefore, embedded responsibility is an important sustenance lever. So, they were drivers of engine. Now, I'm talking about levers of the engine. Let me write it for you. Embedded accountability. Embedded accountability. Now, that's an important, and one point here is we need to have an owner for the customer's mirror. Basically, experience. Okay, now when I say embedded accountability, owner, I mean it is not a committee, not a designation, not a position. It's a name that you can actually look up. Okay, so that is the third important lever. The fourth lever is very obvious, but I'm going to say it again, and that is continuous signal reading and not explanations about signal reading. So, customer experience cannot be measured quarterly, especially during transformation, now every day. The degradation cycles are too small. Day one, he's happy. Day five, he is saying, get lost from my organization. What happened within these 5 days? One day he was happy, fifth day he's not. The next time he's saying that you shut down. So this is the big problem in all the companies. We don't tend to see from the customer's point of view. So communication and signal reading is an important part. Now, for us as trans organization, where we are engaged with customer almost on the site every day, still signal reading by a person who goes once in a while and the person who's going little frequently and customer is open to speaking to him is an extremely important part of the journey. So with multiple ways of connection, you will know that something is going south or something is not, or something is not. Sometimes you will not even come to know. That also I'll tell you, even though you're doing signals well. So don't punish yourself too much on this part, because many times things happen too fast that it is impossible to read the signal. So customer experience cannot be, one is for sure, it cannot be measured in a frequency. It is to be continuous. And therefore it is not a step function. It is a continuous function. So degradation cycles, because in a step function, when you're just lulled and sitting behind, something has already fallen there and the customer has already taken a decision about you. And next time when you go to meet him with that past experience in your head, and you're smiling and he's frowning, you're seeing him with old experience, he's seeing you with the current experience. And these two can be and will be very different in many cases unless you have a continuous signal reading habit. So, organizations that navigate customer experience well during the transformation are typically those that have established a real time or near to a real time signal reading capability. So, regular pulse surveys at customer key touch points, continuous monitoring of the support metric trends, account healthy health scorecards, cadence by someone with authority to act, many such things. It's combination of things that you have to imagine yourself and create, because goal is not to generate data, goal is not to create a monthly report. The goal is ensuring the customer experience is always high, because what you do on the ground is the real value, but what happens in the mind of the customer is the perceived value. Real value most of the times has a small connection to the perceived value. Therefore, a perceived value has to be created here, and while you're creating the real value on the ground. And if you're not able to communicate the real value to make it a perceived value, you have missed the bus. You have missed it, which you cannot. Okay. And because if you can catch the signal early for the experience degradation in the time it is time to correct, you can correct it before it starts becoming attrition. Before it starts becoming attrition. So the question, where to start and what to measure? Let me put the fourth point, and that this question is to be answered continuously, and this answer can change while you're trying to even measure things. So another is continuous. Or it's a better word. Monitoring is not a very word. Continuous. Continuous. It's almost like a signal reading. Am I doing continuous signal reading? It is not in step function. Not really. Okay, so what do you measure it? How do you measure it? That's the thought that you have to build while you are actually creating this whole mechanism of continuous signal reading, but needs to be done well. Okay, now comes the how do I start and what should I measure? First important thing here, sequencing matters. Activate the drivers in sequence. Activate the drivers in sequence, but do not wait for one to complete before you start the other. So first important statement you have to remember for the drivers. Driver is very simple. The statement is activate the drivers in sequence, but do not wait for one to finish before you start the other. But activating have to be in sequence only. Okay, that's the first important point. The second important point is while you are sequencing, be clear what has to be the sequence and how we have to start it. So, for example, start with presence. Before any other driver can land, customers need to know that a human being is accountable for the relationship and not an artificial intelligence robo or a tool. A human being is accountable for their relationship. And that human being is paying attention more than I do. That is the first presence. That feeling कि मैं हूं ना, that feeling मैं हूं ना, वो feeling बहुत important है. So you start with presence and then you move on to promise. So when you start with presence, you have put a human before the promise. So what does that mean? Honest disclosure करने के लिए कौन है? वो human. When do you do this disclosure? Before the customer starts noticing the gap on their own. So therefore, a human continuously promising and showing the clarity is an important part. So first, presence, second, promise. Then comes pipeline. Because अभी presence हुआ, framework ऐसा है कि honest disclosures continuously हो रहे हैं. Once you know कि अभी difficulties की बातें मैं कर चुका हूँ, hope build करनी पड़ेगी. तो pipeline. Connect customers to forward direction. Once the presence has been established, once the promises have been made, it is extremely important that they should know, that customers should know what is going to come in store for it. Then comes pipeline. So first presence, then promise, then pipeline, and then finally the proof. So proof arrives as the transformation starts delivering the value. And proof cannot be manufactured. It is the outcome of the activity. So therefore, when you wrap the flywheel practices around all floor drivers from day one, it's not difficult to see where how the whole thing gets impacted. Metrics to see whether I'm doing well or not is basically the experience, that is the customer satisfaction scores, NPS. NPS is the net promoter score. Across the transformation period, those numbers have to keep coming to you. Experience. Second, engagement. How do I measure it? Engagement. Third, trust. When customer says, I believe the company, I believe the company, these guys know what they're doing. Retention. They're not leaving you during the transformation time. Renewal rates are higher because now you need them more than you needed them earlier. And finally, advocacy, when they start promoting you, referring you, testimonying you to the other things, of truest sign that transformation has moved the customers from retained to resonant. They're not retained customers anymore. They're resonating with you. Okay. So this is the complete framework. I will still put the metrics for you so that you can see them whenever you have time. So metrics of customer mirror. The first metric is experience. Customer satisfaction scores in NPS is experience. So first is experience. That is the first. The second metric is engagement. That means account health scores, engagement frequency, inbound support contact rates, etc. So engagement is the second one. So build scorecard for it, like number of times met, etc. When you ensure experience is good, when you ensure engagement is good, and our natural outcome is trust. When the customer sentiment is, I believe. Now, from mathematics, it's a feeling. So trust, the feeling. Fourth metrics, once the trust is built, is retention. Now, there's the first tangible output. Don't just don't just not fall apart. They increase business or renew contracts. There is retention. And the fifth natural outcome is advocacy. So it is advocacy. Advocacy. It is customer has moved from retention to resonance. That is the driver of the framework. These are the levers, and this is the metric. Now, this is it. So, this is how you actually build a beautiful customer mirror, which will not just sustain you, it will not just help you, it will create something that you really wanted, and customer can see it during the whole journey. Because whether you like it or not, customer is an important part of your process. So you can't just be making changes in your process without keeping customer in the loop and making him part of your transformation journey. Because transformation journey is nothing but transformation of the processes that you're doing inside, which will lead to a transformed culture. And both these things directly impact the customer. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask me now. This is what we complete our customer mirror element. Like we did the employee mirror, this is the customer mirror. Next time, we'll do the stakeholder mirror. How does that actually happen? And that'll complete our mirror part of the transformation journey. Any questions, you can ask me now. Yes, Paresh, you there? You will have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, namaskar, Rohit
Namaskar.
sir, pranam.
Pranam.
This mirror does give us a everyday or almost say weekly or fortnightly monitoring of the customers, how they behave, and what should be our strategy to expand the business. Am I right?
Everything, whatever is happening at the customer side is actually what is happening inside you.
Yeah.
So, customer, like the universe, is a mirror of who you are. If
Who you are. I see. I
if
see.
customers are happy, you are calm. If customers are irritated, they are having some kind of a, so anything happens around you is just a mirror of what is happening inside you. In a similar way, what is happening, what is around, what is this, there is market, there is employees, there is customers, there are vendors, whatever is happening with them, in them, is what is actually happening within you, is what is getting reflected over there. This is what exactly it is.
No, but because of the increased competition
Mm-hmm.
in the business,
Mm-hmm.
if one keeps on uh, improving the strategies of the business, including the new product launch and whatever the ways and means are, but
Yeah.
even then the response is poor, what could be the ideology for the
That
owner
means
or the partners
that
or
means
the stakeholders?
you've still not reached to the level of what the customer is expecting you to do.
Yes, yes. Expectations have been not achieved. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
simple. So
Sir,
you may be very good at what you're doing, but if customer is not feeling that what you're delivering is worth the value that he's paying for,
right, sir.
then he will either stop working with you or say ki it doesn't, or he will give honest feedback to you. But do this thing.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
sir, one last request. Would you please uh, put one more time the last, screen of your slide presentation,
1 second.
including the mirror 4 points?
This one.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Let's conclude our session with